Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We are going to start shortly in about 1 or 2 minutes. We'll just give the rest of the candidates a few more minutes to join, and then we will start. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll start now. The session is being recorded, and as more people are joining, they'll find us going. And just for the sake of time, we have a lot of content to cover and a few questions as well. So we're going to start shortly. But before that, I would just like to talk a little bit about this PMP webinar review sessions, because I recognize that some of you might be new and are not aware what this is all about. So the PMP webinar review sessions was started to ensure that we are supporting candidates that are sitting for the PMP exam. We realized that some of the candidates, or most of the candidates, need a lot of handholding after they take their studies with their PMP, with the ATPs that we have in the region, and they need support in revision of the revision of the PMP content, and be able to get guidance and even answering a few questions that might be struggling with even as you prepare for the exam. So these are done every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then they are officially conducted by instructors from our official ATPs, authorized training partners that we have in Sub-Saharan Africa. And today we have one here that her name is Jumoke Lafenma from Ghana. Jumoke has been a volunteer for a very long time, as far as I've known her. She has been a chapter president for the Ghana chapter, served there, still serving there, in support of the chapter board and even serving the members. She is an authorized trainer for the PMI certifications and also on the ATP Okin Valley. She'll be here taking us through today's topic, and she'll cover a few content as well as questions and any other material that she has prepared. Feel free to post your questions on the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll get to those once she's done. As you might have noticed, all of you are muted, So if you have any question or you'd like to ask a question directly, just go ahead and lift your hand and I'll be able to unmute you and you'll be able to ask the question. We highly encourage you to be engaging during and throughout the webinar. Post questions. If you want to connect with someone on LinkedIn, post on the chat. Feel free to post your exam date on the chat, or feel free to post where you're coming from on the chat as well. What we've done before is that most candidates have connected even after these webinars, even through the WhatsApp group that we have, where you connect with fellow candidates and be able to encourage each other even as you study for the PMP. Now, for those that are not part of the WhatsApp group, we'll be sharing the WhatsApp link on the chat that you can be able to join and we continue the conversations there. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jumoke. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Jumoke, as Nelson has said, and I'm talking to you right now from Ghana. And okay, so what happened? Can you see me? Or the camera is disabled?
Okay. I couldn't see. I could see a video, but I couldn't see your face.
That's okay. Let me share my screen. I would like to say congratulations to those of you on this call, and I wish when I was preparing for my PMP, I had this kind of hand holding. And this is one of the stories that I tell, that I failed my PMP at first sitting. And now I know why I failed my PMP at first sitting. One, I was overconfident. I'm an engineer, and I felt, what are they going to ask that I wouldn't know until I sat for the exam. And so this is a good opportunity for you to make notes, and as Nelson has said, connect with others so that you can have steady partners. It is very, very helpful. Having said that, let's dive in. I tried as much as possible to I'm trying to minimize this, give us a concise slide. Using my experience, I've been teaching PMP since 2012. I got certified 2011, and I've been teaching since 2012. So feedback from students has informed these slides that you will be seeing. So the outline of today's training is based on ECO, the exam content outlined by PMI, but I wanted to run through this. This is actually the summary of PMP. If you own a business or you work in an organization, the organization or you would have a vision, you would have a mission, and this vision and mission would birth strategy and the objectives or the reason why the organization is in existence. And in achieving the strategy, you would have to have portfolio. We know that portfolio is a combination of programs and projects. We also know that programs is a combination of interrelated projects towards achieving one goal. Now, let's take, for instance, if there's a community where you want to eradicate malaria. You went to the community, you realize that their drainage layout is choked or are choked. They need to use mosquito nets, and you feel that they need education. That could be 3 projects. Project 1, desilting drainage. Project 2, mosquito net, distribution of mosquito nets and education on that. And then project 3, general education. So you know that these 3 projects would answer to eradication or minimizing malaria in that community. That is a program. What I just described now is a program. And each of the outlets that you are going to execute to achieve the program is project. So a project is the lowest form of the strategy of an organization. And previously, project management was defined as the application of tools, techniques, knowledge to project objectives to achieve the goal of the said objective. But project management has evolved, that your job does not end at delivering the deliverables, but the outputs, or sorry, the outcome or the value that the deliverables would, the organization or the customer or the stakeholders will benefit from it, is also part of your responsibilities now. And often those are the operations. And that's why we have operations here. You have portfolio management, you have strategic planning, management of projects, programs, and operations. And so if you are mindful of that, you think about post-project activities when you design manuals, for the users of your deliverables to rely on to be able to make use or benefit from what you have delivered. That is part of what you now do as post-project. And so with all this, you will need the organizational resources to be able to deliver that. That is what PMP is all about. All right.
Sorry, Julie. Okay. Are you sharing the slides yet? No.
Yes, you can't see the slide.
No, not yet.
Okay. Oh, let me redo that. Sorry.
No, it's,
Can you see my screen?
yeah, I can see your screen. I can see the slides as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I was trying to minimize this. And okay, so let me just move it to a corner. I'm not sure why it's not minimizing. Anyway, so this, I wonder why it's not. And this was what I just explained now, that whether you own a business or you work in an organization, there will be vision, mission, there will be strategy, and you have a portfolio management to be able to manage your strategy. And portfolio is made up of programs and projects. And I just explained what program, I just gave an example of what program is, and then projects. And I also mentioned that project management is more than just delivering on deliverables. You have to also think of the post project activities, and that is where you provide support. And so this is, listen, I'm not sure why this is not moving. Okay, so I'll keep moving it. So I decided to summarize what PMP training is all about. You have 6 lessons. Lesson 1 is business environment. This is where basics will be addressed. What is project, temporary endeavor, produces unique results, and ends, and then its attributes, why you execute projects is to bring value, and then you define project management, you define PMO, project management office, you define OPM, organizational project management. That is a strategic framework that is used to coordinate portfolio, programs, projects, and operations, so that the organization can achieve greater benefits. And in the same lesson 1, you are going to look at the different organizational structures: matrix, functional, projectized, and composite. That's a combination of all. And then under this lesson 1, you are going to look into compliance, project compliance, which you should factor it into your risk, because if you do not comply, it could mean the end of your project. And then project governance. All of what I just said, you would have gone through that in lesson 1. In lesson 2, you start the project. What do you do when you start project? You identify stakeholders, and that will birth stakeholder register. The stakeholder register, that is where you will analyze all the stakeholders, and then you'll be able to come up with the key stakeholders and the other stakeholders, and then come up with your communication management plan. The communication management plan tells you how you are going to communicate with your stakeholders. What kind of update do they want? What is the content? What is the frequency? What format? What mode? That is what you are going to do once you have your stakeholders. And then you form the team. When you form the team, you come up with what we call the team charter. The team charter would define or identify the roles, pertaining to the project you are going to execute. And with the roles, you come up with the corresponding responsibilities. And once you have that in place, you now staff your project. You look within the organization. If you have the skills required to play the role, if you do not have, you may have to outsource or bring them on board as contracts. Now, at this point, we also learn the Tuckman's stages of team formation: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And you will know the characteristics of all these 5 stages, because when you first form your team, when you come to the storming, there will be conflicts. All right. And when the 5 stages are completed and there is any need for change, maybe somebody is taken off, another person is added, bear in mind that we go through all the process. So this is helpful for you as a project manager to know how to handle your team members. And then it's in this same lesson 2 that you are going to learn shared understanding. Shared understanding is ensuring that every team member is on the same stage, it's on the same page, you have the same information. So you as a project manager, you don't put the project charter under your pillow or in your drawers and lock it up. No, you make all the information available to your team so that everyone knows what the project is about. After you've done all this, then you and your team will be able to decide that, okay, based on the nature of my team members, based on the nature of the project, based on what the stakeholders want, this is the project life cycle or approach or methodology that we are going to deploy. We are going to go with predictive, we are going to go with adaptive, or we are going to go with hybrid. You take that decision in lesson 2. And then lesson 3, that is where you now plan the project. You plan the project, you first know the understanding of the essence of planning project or project management plan. If you lived in a house that has compound and you put your kids in the compound and you say play everywhere, that is not 100% accurate, because everywhere is within the compound. That is what planning does for adaptive approach. It provides guardrails within which the development team can work. The project management plan for predictive helps to direct how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. All right. So you plan certain knowledge areas, the scope. Remember your stakeholders that you identify in lesson 1. You go to them to elicit requirements and you use that to plan your scope. However, you have to be careful so that the scope you are planning must be the same as what is in the project charter that you had in lesson 1 under business environment, that empowered you as a project manager to start seeking for resources. So the project charter is what empowers you, appoints you, and empowers you. It contains high-level scope of the project, key stakeholders, high-level risk, high-level budget, and some key information. And that the project charter becomes input into the processes, the planning that you'll be doing in the project. So you're going to plan scope, you're going to plan schedule. In planning schedule, WBS is handy. That's work breakdown structure, where you decompose or you disintegrate the entire project into smaller components. And it is said that the lowest part of WBS are the work packages. And so later you break down the work packages into activities, and then you have the activity list. So it is this activity that you provide estimation of time and cost. Okay. And then with this activity list, you now sequence them based on their dependency. And then you have your network diagram. The network diagram will be made up of parts. And then, sorry, that's PATH, PATHS, multiple parts. And then you identify the one with the longest duration. That becomes your critical path. And that is the shortest time the project can be completed. And then you also plan budget, you plan risk, where you identify your risk, analyze your risk. You know that there are 2 main analyses. The first analysis is qualitative analysis, and that is subjective. That is where you determine the likelihood and impact of risk occurring. And then the quantitative, so the qualitative analysis, which is subjective, is is used to assess all identified risk. And then the quantitative analysis is on the risk that you have determined that they have high likelihood of occurring and or high impact should they occur. Right. And then you also plan resources. That is where you make the make or buy decision. If you make the make decision, it means you have enough time to be able to make the resource that you need, and you have the expertise, you have the money. If you do not have enough time, then you buy. And that is where contract comes in. And there are three main types of contract. Fixed price contract that has three kinds of its own. And then um, cost reimbursable also has three kinds of its own. And then the third type is time and material, right? And then lesson 4, you lead the project team. This is where you craft your leadership skills. This is where you don't say, this is my leadership style, because the leadership style is supposed to be adaptive based on the experience or maturity of your team, the nature of project, you know. So you craft your leadership skill and then you develop yourself. Then lesson 5 is where you support performance. All the plans you had here, they will give you baselines. And so in lesson 5, you will start assessing or conducting performance assessments to be able to tell how are we doing in terms of cost, in terms of time, definition of done for adaptive, are we achieving it, retrospective, what worked well, what didn't go well, iteration review and all that. And this is where you will do that in lesson 5. And lesson 6, you close the project, which many project managers actually overlook. You close the project. This is where knowledge sharing is done. Knowledge repository where you store knowledge that you acquired or lessons learned, and then this is where final payment is made to the vendors. Resources that were not used are sent back to where you took them from. If you had a functional organization, the resources as in human skills will go back to their respective functional units, and then you close the project. So this is a summary of PMP. And I think I've given some of you overview of the training you had. But today, we'll be looking at 4 subtopics. Establish project governance structure under lesson 1, business environment. And then we also look at you leading a team as a project manager. And that is also under start the project. And it cuts across some of the lessons. And then manage conflicts. There are various reasons or causes of conflicts. We would look into that. And then the 4th one is you supporting team performance. So this is the summary of what we are doing today. So let's pick the first one, establish project governance structure. When we say project governance, we mean the framework, the functions and processes that will guide your decision whilst you are managing the project, and as well as accountability. All right. And usually you establish this. Sometimes this is pre-project because it's usually managed by senior management to you. All right. So these are the topics that we are going to look under project governance structure. We determine appropriate governance for a project. How do you replicate organizational governance if applicable to you establishing project governance structure? And then you need to determine at what point escalation will be made for what decision and what is the threshold. So when we say 1, determine appropriate governance for a project, you need to first assess the project size, the complexity, the risk level, the stakeholder influence, and organizational context. You need to understand that to be able to determine what is appropriate structure to govern your project. And you also need to select the approach that suits the project. Centralized, it means it's predictive. Decentralized, when you have adaptive, these are self-organizing team. And hybrid is a combination of the two that you predictive and adaptive. Then you also need to define the roles of the people that will be governing the managing the governance, okay? The project sponsor, steering committee, the governance board, which would usually or most of the time include the CFO, the chief finance officer, whoever is responsible to dispersing fund. Okay, and then you come up with their authority and make them accountable for decisions that they will be taking. The second topic under this is replicating organizational governance if applicable. If you have something existing within the organization, you can replicate it for your project. All right, and then you maintain consistency in policies. There's no need for you as a project manager to change existing policies, okay, or reporting structures. And so when you are reading your questions, you have to be mindful, all right, of what type of project you are managing. I tell my student that when you read your questions, quickly establish, is this a predictive? There are some questions that will not tell you this adaptive question or predictive or hybrid. You would have to situate the question that, okay, this is a predictive scenario or adaptive scenario or hybrid scenario. If it's hybrid, then it means you are going to have characteristics of both adaptive and predictive. And at what time? Is it during planning, executing, monitoring and controlling? At what phase? Quickly. And the more you practice questions, the better you become in situating the questions, right? Then one of the ways that you can establish project governance structure is to adopt templates, decision gates and review mechanics that are already in existence so that you don't reinvent the wheel. If you have an organization where there is information management system, where you have online repository or even hardware storage where you have information of past projects, then it makes it easy. You can check as benchmark, as guide or pointers, not necessarily what you must do. All right. Then define escalation path and threshold, as we mentioned. Set clear path for escalating issues if there is cost overrun. So you know your limit as a project manager with your team. At what point, if the cost rises, that I would have to escalate it. And if you're escalating it, to who are you escalating it? This has to be very clear in your governance structure. And then the threshold, 10% budget variance. It means I have to escalate it to the program manager or to the portfolio manager or to your superior, as it were, within your organization. Ensure the escalation process is documented. As project managers, we need to learn this, that everything you do on your project should be documented. Sometimes we deceive ourselves. When you're doing something currently, you think you will remember, but experience has shown that you will not remember so much afterwards. So document, be transparent. This is where information radiators may be helpful, to bring everyone on board. This is a tip that I am giving. Governance ensures decision-making authority, accountability, and alignment with organizational strategy. The reason why you are executing the project is to meet a particular need of the organization that fits into the strategic existence of your organization. Even if you're a business owner, whatever project, if you say that I want to be able to have a farm of, let's say, 2 acres, but you are starting with 0.5 acres, all that you will be doing will be towards you getting a 2 acre size farmland. Okay, so what if you are doing something that will take you to say 3 acres or reduce the size? You will not want to do it because you understand where you are going as an individual, your department, and the organization. So every time you are managing projects, you need to look into this. Anytime you are also answering questions, you have to take options that suit the strategy of the organization and not you. One of the things the simulator does, it helps you to unlearn or take you out to your default settings. And your default settings are what you do predominantly in your organization. And your organization is not the owner of PMP. So they cannot be the reference when it comes to how you approach PMP in practicing and in answering the question. The second topic that we are looking at is you leading a team. Remember, I said earlier when I was going over the 6 lessons that your team have to be formed. You have to do what we call, you have to come up with what we call team charter. The team charter would give like a brief introduction of what the project is, come up with the roles to get the project achieved, and then each of the role would have their corresponding responsibilities. And this would help to be able to assess performance. It will also help you to be able to identify the right resource in terms of skills for the role. So effective leadership in project management is about guiding the team toward achieving project objectives while fostering collaboration, trust, and performance. I keep telling my students or people that I work with that never lose the focus of why you are together, why you came together to do the work. It is to achieve a result. And so that result, as much as possible, you can put it on sticky notes and stick it everywhere in your office, on your table, as constant reminders. Even when it comes to resolving conflict, it has to be towards favor of the task. However, the project is truly to achieve or accomplish task, but the task will be managed by people, by human. No wonder we have the PMP exam, 42% of what you will be doing is on people, while 50% is on process. And then 8% is on our business acumen. So it is important for you as the project manager or the scrum master to provide leadership for the team to be able to deliver. And you as the project manager, you must be flexible, inclusive, and strategic in leading diverse individuals within your country. You know that you have diverse ethnic groups. Your beliefs are different. Outlook of things are different. Experience and knowledge are different. So you cannot have a fixed way of leading the people that would execute the task. Okay. And now for lead the team, these are the subtopics we are going to. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know, because I'm also talking fast so that I can cover all the topics and give enough time for us to ask questions. How am I doing in terms of speed? Okay, all right, thank you. I see thumbs up. It means I'm doing well in terms of speed. So we're going to look at why do you need to set a clear vision and mission for your team, for you to be able to lead them. Supporting diversity and inclusion, why is it important? Value servant leadership. What is servant leadership? And why is it important to lead in a team? Determine an appropriate leadership style. I said earlier that you cannot have one fit all leadership style. Inspire, motivate, and influence team members or stakeholders. This is very, very important. So we'll look at why it's important. Analyze team members and stakeholders influence. Remember stakeholders matrix, where you look at influence and power. So we will look at that as well. Distinguish various options to lead various team members, whether they are co-located or they are working virtually. So set a clear vision and mission. Define and communicate the project purpose from the onset. Everybody must know what the project is to deliver. And that is why shared understanding is key. It's very key. You provide all the information for everyone on the team. It's like when you conduct what is it called? This conference for contractors or vendors, where you put all of them together and then you give them the same information. So everybody would have the same information, no advantage whatsoever for anyone. Align team goals with organizational strategy. Sometimes you are working with individuals and they have their personal goals that are contrary to the team goals, as it were the project goals now. So you need to help the team members align their goals to the organizational strategy. And for you, it will be your project, because if you're able to achieve or execute your project successfully, you will be achieving, or it will be a success towards achieving your organizational strategy. In leading your team, you need to reinforce the vision throughout. There is nothing that is called over information. There's nothing like that. You have to constantly align your team members, keep them focused on the objective of the project throughout the life cycle of the project, and keep them engaged. And what you can use to do this is the team charter. Is the team charter, because you have your roles and responsibilities there. You also have your ground rules. Your ground rules, how you are going to hold meetings. There should be agenda. It should be time box. Minutes should be shared. All those would have to be in your team charter. So it's a good way. It's a good tool in helping you set a clear vision and mission for your team, as well as managing the entire interactions. Oh, okay. So number 2, support diversity and inclusion. Recognize that we are different. Even twins, they are different. So you cannot handle two people the same way. The way we process things and our experiences affect who we are. And sometimes we are even biased. We don't know we are biased, unconscious bias. So you need to be alert, and very observant as a leader to support your team. Recognize that we are different, and the fact that we are different doesn't mean one is better than the other. Create a collaborative working environment, a psychological or psychosocial environment where people can relax and feel free to be themselves. All right, that is a psychosocial environment. So, and as a leader, vulnerability is actually from a place of strength. So be willing to be vulnerable with your team members. And when you are vulnerable with your team members, they trust you because they see you as human and listening to them as well. So leverage on strength, on the differences of your team members in terms of their strength, and don't see the differences as obstacle. And for you to be able to do this, it means you're observing, you're conducting survey, you're having one-on-one conversation with your team members to be able to do this. In leading your team members, you need to lead as a servant leader. A servant leader serves his team first, his or her team first, and also exhibits the leadership traits that he or she wants to see within the team. If as a project manager, you want your team members to start work 8 a.m., you get to work 7:45 at the latest yourself. All right. As a servant leader, you need to practice these skills or traits: active listening, where you are listening to understand; empathy, where you put yourself in the shoes of others, but without letting go what they're supposed to do, by being kind and thoughtful towards your team members. Stewardship, know that this is not when to flaunt your power, as it were, or your authority. You are giving these people to serve them, and then commitment to growth. By the time you finish the project, they should be better than they were before they started the project. So you need to shift your mindset from authority-based to service-oriented support. You are here to support your team. And it's very easy, or it's easier for Scrum Masters, because you are not telling anyone to do anything as a Scrum Master. They are self-organizing. What you are going to be doing as a Scrum Master is remove impediments and to constantly create that atmosphere of adaptive thinking or approach to managing projects and facilitating the respective ceremonies, as it were, daily stand-up, review, retrospective, and all that. But when it comes to work, the people themselves or the team members will choose what they want to do. And it's actually eye-opening. If you want to discover yourself, if you are power drunk, manage adaptive projects, excuse me, and you realize that it's a different context altogether. But I've also seen leaders managing predictive projects, exhibiting these 7 leadership traits. And by the time you finish the project, you bond better with your team. So when you are reading questions, excuse me, when you are reading questions, look for options that is service oriented and valid delivery like, and it is not options that is backing authority and power to your team members. Okay. The next one is determine an appropriate leadership style. Be adaptive. Don't stick to one. There are times you would have to be autocratic if decision has to be taken now, maybe in the face of emergency. Know when to be consultative, So don't say this is my style, and every time, whether it rain or shine, that is your leadership style. And that is why under lesson 4, the first subtopic is that you should craft your own leadership style. So you know the default and know the other styles so that you know when to deploy them. So the choice of leadership style is influenced by team maturity. If you have extremely matured, experienced team members, you will not be holding their hands. You come, you determine what they are going to do, you leave them, they give you updates. But if you have new entrants, that may require some hand holding. So you cannot say you are going to sleep. They should just do what they need to do. So you need to understand the maturity level of your team, the project complexity, how complex the project is, would influence the leadership style you are going to deploy, as well as your stakeholder needs. What are their needs? It will also influence your leadership style. You will use a directive leadership style for new or urgent decisions or less experienced teams, that's inexperienced teams. And you will use collaborative or participative leadership style for mature team members or self-organizing teams, that's adaptive teams, so as to build consensus and increase the buy-in or ownership of decisions taken. Coaching or delegating. I have a friend, every time he's using coaching, even when it's raining, like when there is need to make urgent decision, he's still coaching. And every time I'm saying there is time for coaching and there is time for you to take action. All right. But coaching or delegating leadership style is used when you are developing skills and when there is time. There's no crisis. All right. So be adaptable. Situational leadership is when you adapt to situation, adapt to your team maturity, adapt to the complexity of the project, as well as the stakeholder needs. So you don't, for a project, you may actually start as a directive a leader. And as you go along, depending on the duration of the project, you may evolve or decide to go the collaborative or participative way, because along the line, your team members are maturing and you are trusting them enough to take decisions. So you may end up, using different leadership style in projects. You also need to inspire, motivate, and influence team members and stakeholders. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. If you have gone through the training, you realize that emotional intelligence starts with you. You have to be self-aware, assess yourself, and then manage what you've discovered about yourself. It's like leadership. Leadership, you have 3 folds of leadership. Leading self. You need to master leading yourself before you can lead others. And it is after you master leading others that you can lead organizations. Okay. So use team to establish norms and expectations. If you have your team charter, you'll be able to establish norms and expectations through the ground rules, and then you'll be able to know how to inspire. You'll be able to identify areas that your team members require training. So you don't take all your team members to go in for the same training when they have different needs. You also need to implement reward and recognition. Reward comes with tangible or intangible plus recognition. There is no reward without recognition, but there can be recognition without reward. If I said, let's all thank Nelson for organizing this meeting, ensuring that we got here, let's give him a hand of applause. And we all did that. We have recognized what Nelson did in facilitating this class. We've not given him a plaque, we've not given him a certificate, we've not given him money. And that is where the reward comes in. So you can recognize without reward. You should not reward without recognition. And share wins and progress to boost morale. Some project managers, you only hear their voice when their team members are not performing well. When they are doing well, you don't hear anything. They don't share the milestones, So give flowers when your team is doing well, so that when you give the negative feedback, they will not feel bad as such, because they know that you are fair. You are a fair leader. The next under leader team is you need to analyze team members and stakeholders' influence. I mentioned this briefly, where you do the stakeholder matrix, you identify power, interest, and impact on project success. And your stakeholder register would help you to do this, because in the register, you have already identified, you've analyzed, you've prioritized them, you've put them in the 4 quadrants, who to monitor, who to just observe, all that. And that will help you to also know how to implement your communication management plan. Understand that motivations differ. And so you by now, I'm hoping this motivation theory, what is it called? The McClellan's, the theory X and Y, where X says that people are lazy, they need you, the authoritarian, you need to be on them before they work. And theory Y says no. Your team members are willing to work. They don't need you to be on them to do the work. You have the Maslow with the different levels of need satisfaction. So you need to know, and you have the McGregor's theory as well, the two-factor theory, where you have the motivators, and what motivates us differs. Some people is their career path, some people is working environment, some of us want both. I don't know if I have people like me here that wants both. So you need to know what motivates your team members, and don't think one size fits all. All right. And the stakeholder matrix would help here. You know that your team members are also part of the stakeholders anyway. So you need to be mindful of that. You also need to distinguish various options to lead various team members and stakeholders. No one size fits all. So different leadership style would help you to be able to do this. You mentor or coach team members needing development. Like someone comes to you to ask questions, as I do with my student. They come with questions and with the options, and I ask them, what do you think the answer is? So that I don't spoon feed them. That is a form of mentoring and coaching. And then negotiate and influence where there is conflicting interest. That is what you would deploy here. And then collaborate or escalate when alignment is critical, but there is resistance. This is where you need to collaborate. And if it is beyond your level, your threshold, you would escalate it. Now, when you are reading questions, don't be quick to pick the options for escalation, because PMI sees you as a professional, an ethical being that is knowledgeable, that can handle situations. So if every time you are escalating, it means you are saying you are, okay, let me rephrase that. If every time you are escalating without minding your threshold, then there is problem. So don't be in a hurry to pick escalating option in your questions. I hope that made sense. All right. So I have a practice question here for what we just finished. Nelson, how do we go about this? What I usually do is you read the questions and then you drop your answers in the chat box, and then I would confirm what if it is. I will confirm the right answer. But Nelson, can you guide me as to how to go about this?
Yeah, thanks, Jumoke, for this and going through the content. So for this, just to encourage engagement, you would just let them do what you're saying, read and then put the answers on the chat, and then you can pick one or two people or three people to explain the answer before actually providing the right answer.
All right, so let's go. I think a minute would do because you've been reading this question while I was asking for support from Nelson. So just drop the alphabet. Is it A? Is it B? Two team members disagree on how to proceed with the project deliverable. The disagreement is affecting team morale and delaying progress. What should the project manager do first? A. Use avoidance until tempers cool down. B. Escalate the issue to the sponsor. Oh, no. C. Analyze the source and change and stage of the conflict. D. Replace one of the team members. Let's have your answers.
So we're getting a majority of C's in the chat. I haven't seen any other. So all
Okay.
C's in the chat.
Okay, so can somebody unmute their mics and tell us why C?
Anyone would like to explain? You can just lift your hand. I'll unmute you. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone on the call. So I would like to explain why the answer is C. So this is a situation where two team members disagree on how to proceed with a project deliverable. And it's not just that they disagree, the disagreement is also affecting the entire team morale and delaying progress. So as a project manager, avoidance is not the issue. If you avoid, the project will be stalled, it will impact schedule. Mind you, is also affecting the other team members and their morale. If you escalate the issue immediately to the sponsor, so what then is your role as the project manager? What have you done to mitigate the situation? So escalation is not the option. If you replace one of the team members, so that means maybe before you complete that project, you would have changed the entire team, because each time there's an issue, you replace somebody. So the best thing to do is to analyze the source, try to understand the cause of the disagreement and stage of the conflict, and find a way to mediate and resolve the issue. Thank you.
I just clap for you. Thank you. Sometimes when people read question, they do the analysis in their head. So they come up with, I know what the problem is, and then they look for option that is solving the question. Anytime you read PMP question, please assume you don't know what the problem is. Look for the option that is telling you to find the root cause of the problem before you solve it. Most times, that is the answer. I'm using most though, so that you don't go and say, Jumoke said. So most times, you need to first understand the problem before you solve. Thanks so much for those who attempted, and the explanation was just on point. I think I have another question. Yes, let's try this. A project manager is working with a multicultural cross-functional team. One member prefers detailed instructions, while other thrives with autonomy. What should the project manager do? A. Apply the same leadership style to ensure fairness. B. Allow the team to self-organize completely. C. Tailor leadership style to individual team members' needs. D. Assign a senior team member to manage others. Over to you. Nelson, are they answering?
Yes. We are getting only C's. There's one B.
Okay. All right, so we have C and B. Can the colleague who gave B as option tell us why he or she thinks it's B?
feel free to raise your hand. I will unmute you. For the ones that said B. Anyone that said B? Okay, yeah. You can unmute.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, I think the answer is B because when you are leading a multicultural cross-functional team, it's at the early stage, it's always better to let the team adjust and organize themselves, and that way it leaves room for them to just self-organize generally. So I think it's B. I don't think the project manager has much to do here. Thank you.
So thank you very much. But let me read the question again. A project manager is working with a multicultural cross-functional team. One team member prefers detailed instructions while another thrives with autonomy. Where did you see at the early part of the project?
Oh, I guess that's my mistake, but I still stick with B anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jumoke,
Yes,
we have A as well.
Okay. All right. Can we have a volunteer among those who said C to tell us why it is C?
Okay, I guess we're going to go with, let's choose someone else. Franco?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Please, can you hear me?
Yes. Please, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry, the name is Franklin. I put Franco by mistake. Apologies for that. So I think it's C because the question says clearly that the two members prefer different styles of receiving instructions. One prefers detailed instructions while the other thrives with autonomy. So it will be important to tailor the leadership style to suit the team members so as to ensure that they understand the instructions and carry out the tasks as assigned. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Who will represent option A?
There was only one person who said A.
Okay. Yes, one person tell us why A.
Sipelile. Not sure if you're able to, you can raise your hand, I'll unmute you. If not, I think Jumoke can go ahead and just and explain the answer. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So apply the same leadership style to ensure fairness. I said whilst I was making my presentation that you can even start your project with the leadership style 1, and by the time you finish, you change it due to maybe maturity or the complexity of the project is no longer keen as it was at the beginning of the project. So applying the same leadership style to ensure fairness is simply saying you don't care about because you would have to choose one, and the one you choose would favor one of these two people. All right. And then it becomes problematic. You see, even when you are working in an organization, you need to know the level of information that your team members need. Some people, before you finish the sentence, they will help you finish it. So you don't need to go into detail. Some people, you will finish the sentence, they will ask questions to clarify. So you cannot use the same approach. There's no fairness here because one person is one of the team members will feel fulfilled and happy because you are serving the person what he or she wants, and the other party wouldn't. So A is not answer. Allow the team to self-organize completely. I know you saw cross-functional team. multicultural, but we have these two in predictive setting. There is nothing here that would depict is adaptive methodology for you to say they should self-organize. When there is conflict, by the way, it is not even conflict, it is the communication. It is the instruction that you, the project manager, you are giving out to your team members. That one of your team members is saying, I don't need so much information as you are giving me. So self-organize to do what? Self-organize is to pick job to do. It is not to influence you, the project manager, as what to do or how to pass your instruction. So it cannot be B. And then C is the answer. You tailor leadership style to individual team members' needs. If you look at the earlier slides that I shared, I indicated the leadership style that you should use for what team, the team members, as well as what the nature of the team that you have. So C is the answer. It cannot also be D, assign a senior team member to manage others. No. So these are the two questions that we have for now. So we'll go to the next topic, and that is manage conflict. When you have conflict on your project, it's a sign that people are engaged, they are involved. If people are indifferent, they are likely not going to be conflict because they will just ignore things and it would have impact on your project. So conflict is a natural part of project work, especially in a cross-functional and high-stakes environment. It's normal, and it is how you address conflict that would help you to maximize it. Make it beneficial to you and your project. So a project manager's ability to manage conflict constructively impact team performance. It will also impact their morale, and it will, at the end of the day, impact the project outcomes because you are using the conflict to your advantage and you are not allowing it to disintegrate into the negative side of conflict. So conflict on its own is not bad. It's how you manage it that will tell whether you are going to get benefit out of it or challenges out of it. So under this manage conflict, you are going to look at this task, investigate the source and stage of the conflict. 2, analyze the context for the conflict. 3, because before you solve the problem, you need to understand. Number 1, investigate. You need to first determine that there's a conflict. That's why you investigate. And then when you investigate, you now analyze the root cause of the problem. And then 3, you evaluate, you recommend, you reconcile the appropriate conflict resolution solution. And in resolving the conflict, the focus is on the project, the value the project is supposed to deliver. That doesn't mean you should not factor the well-being or the emotional state of your team members, but don't solve anything that will be against value creation of your project. So common sources of conflict when you investigate: resource constraints, competing priorities, poor communication or misinterpretation. You remember that, or you should have heard that what you do as project manager is over 80% communication. And so it's an art that you need to master. Your choice of words, your body language, your eye contact, your templates, your policies. These are all form of communication, and it must be done in a way that is clear. If you are using push communication style, you must ensure that you are pushing well, because when you pick your phone and to call, especially for call that you did not schedule, courtesy demands that you should ask if it's a good time to talk. It opens up your team member to listen to you. You see what I mean? So it's important. If it's also poor communication style you are using, that your team members would have to go maybe to your website or to your repository to pick information, the information should be structured in a way that easy access. If you need to give permits, ensure that a permit is given to people to access the information. And if you are decoding information, be mindful that the medium the information is going to pass there will be noise interaction. So it's important that the decoder or the receiver gives you feedback to confirm what they have heard is what you intended communicating. Often we pass instruction and we don't verify to know that what the information we pass has been received as we intended. Even when the receiver becomes the decoder in giving his or her understanding of your instruction, you become the decoder. The person becomes the encoder now, and you become the decoder. And between you and this person, it's also noise. Your background, your experience, your cultural upbringing, your exposure, all this will contribute to the noise, as in how you will interpret and understand the information that you have received. So you must be mindful of this so that when you communicate, you try to verify that, can you tell me your understanding of what I just said? Or when people paraphrase what you just said, they just want to ensure that what you said is what they understood. All right. So these are sources of conflict, personality clashes. This is the way I'm doing it, and that's it. You cannot talk to me like that. In Ghana, if you use left hand to give someone something, it's insult. Maybe in your culture is not an insult. So if you are if you have a Ghanaian among your team members, you have to be mindful of this. In Ghana, too, when you do thumbs up and you move the thumb down, it's an insult here. So if you are using thumb up, you have to ensure that the thumb stays up and does not move forward and backward, because it's an insult here. So you need to be mindful of this as the sources of conflict. This is not exhaustive. It's just example of the common sources of conflict. You also need to understand the stages or the stage of conflict that you are, disagreement. You can also use the Lear steps, okay, to identifying where you are when it comes to conflict, disagreements. Then from disagreement, it goes to escalation. This is where people, my way or no way, and then you still meet, and then it could de-escalate where it becomes real problem, or you can find solution to it. And where you start your projects with the focus of the project constantly being hammered to your team members, and there is healthy relationship, there is a psychosocial enabling where people are free to express themselves. They trust that whatever they express will not be used against them. Then managing conflict becomes easy. Early detection is key. It helps in applying timely intervention and preventing escalation. If you identify it quickly, for you to determine that there is conflict, that is the best. Don't wait until it becomes problem. Then analyze the context for the conflict. There are some factors that you need to consider in this analysis. You need to determine the team dynamics and emotional intelligence levels. We are all at different levels when it comes to our emotional intelligence. Some people, they don't even know that they are triggered easily. It's not personal. It's not like they want to disrupt the team. So you need to factor this when you are analyzing the conflict. You also need to know the organizational culture. I performed a leadership training where, when the managing director is in the escalator or the lift, no employee stays in the in the lift with him. And so I got there and we got into the escalator and people came out of the lift. And I assumed That was the floor they were going. But I realized that the others didn't join us. And I was calling them, me that I'm a visitor, I was calling them, but nobody minded me. So in the escalator, I asked the MD, why didn't they join us? And he said, oh, here they don't join. I'm like, if something happens and you collapse, who will carry you, you know? But that is organizational culture. So you need to observe that in the hierarchy. If is by title, you know, you need to observe that. Okay. If you pick people from functional unit to form matrix, and hierarchy is a thing in the organization, you have to observe the hierarchy, the position in the team. Okay, don't say, oh no, it's a team. It doesn't matter the level you are, whether you are a manager, if the assistant manager and the manager, they're on the same level. You have to understand the culture and how hierarchy plays role in your organization. And then you need to also analyze whether this conflict is from personal interest or project interest. If it is personal, you just have to find a way to realign that it's about the project and it's not individual or personal. Now, if a conflict is task related, it's usually productive, it's easy, it's most of the time easy to resolve. However, if it is relationship based, it could be disruptive, often is disruptive. So you need to distinguish the conflict based. If it's task related, it means it's project related. And if it is relationship based, it means it's personal. Always separate personal inclination from the project inclination. And you do that from the word go. And that should also be part of your team charter. So people understand it's about the project or mostly and not personal. You can use these tools, the RACI charts, responsible, accountable, consult, inform, and the stakeholder analysis, where you determine who the key stakeholders are. Emotional intelligence, where you analyze yourself. You see that the emotional intelligence, you have responsibility towards yourself and you have responsibility towards social. And that is where you talk about the people you are working with, your team, the organization. So you need to also be able to do that. And the team agreement will always be in the team charter for you to know how to resolve. In fact, your team charter will also have portion on how a conflict will be resolved, just as we have for PMI, that if there is conflict, the two people involved should first have the conversation. If they are unable to resolve, then they escalate it to their superior. So you don't escalate a conflict that you have not had conversation with the person that you claim has offended you. In Ghana, if you do that, we will say it's kokonsa. In Nigeria, they will say amebo. I don't know how you will say that in Kenya. Please drop it in the chat for me to learn. Like gossip. Drop how you will say that in Swahili in the chat box for me. I want to pick that as well. So this is how you analyze the context for the conflict, for you to be able to determine how you are going to resolve it. And this is a good table, how to resolve conflicts, you know. And you should know this. This PMI, all this slash means at a point it was withdraw. And then upon research and evolving of PMP, it could be withdraw or avoid, you know. So all this at a point in time, they were standalone. Okay. So when you withdraw or you avoid, it means you have just swept the conflict under the carpet. You have not resolved it. It's okay for a low priority conflict, but if it is massive or huge conflict, you don't withdraw or you avoid, you resolve it. And you withdraw or avoid, maybe you think they need cooling off, you know. Somebody wrote PMP exam and failed and came back to blame the instructor. And when they were sharing the story with me, I was like, okay, a similar thing happened to me 2011 when I first wrote my PMP and failed. I was angry at everyone except me. And I felt PMI didn't mark or score my my script well. And it took me about 2 weeks to get over that hurt, pain, disappointment. Because the first time I didn't use simulator, and when I got simulator was when I realized the errors I was making. So I needed cooling off. And this person also needed cooling off, because when I was told the story, she said she will never write PMP again, but she wrote and she's passed the PMP now. So sometimes cooling off is a way of withdrawing or avoiding, and that when the person becomes calmer, will realize that there was actually no problem at all. Another way or strategy of resolving conflict is compete, force, or direct. Okay, now let me also say something. PMI encourages a win-win situation. Anytime you are answering questions, be looking for a win-win situation. There shouldn't be any option that you will choose that one person will feel he or she has lost. The same with contract. The vendor, the buyer, and the seller, you must be looking for a win-win situation. So there is no way this compete or force or direct is a preferred solution from PMI perspective, because it's one-sided, and one person will win and another person will lose. Okay. And then you have accommodate or smooth, where you yield to preserve harmony. But you will yield if what is causing conflict is not that important to you. So you will yield, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, then you go along. Compromise. No, I want to start work 8 a.m. No, I want us to start 9 a.m. Okay, you know what? Let's start 8:30. There will be some give away from both ends. And then the preferred one is the last one, where you collaborate or you problem solve. You problem solve, it means you will need to find what the problem is to be able to offer solution. And when you finish, hopefully it will be a win-win situation. The root cause will be addressed and all that. So I hope that is clear. So strive for fairness, transparency, and respect when resolving conflict. You have to position yourself where every team member feels or understands, or they are convinced that you are not biased, you don't have favorites, and you are resolving the conflict ethically, professionally, the way PMI prescribes. Remember, the exam is for PMI, it's not yours. It's not for your organization. It's not how you feel. Sometimes when people are answering questions, they say, I feel no, but you see yourself, no, you are not the reference. The reference is PMI. So we have one practice question, I think two, but let's address this first one. During a project meeting, two team members begin arguing over the approach to a technical solution. The disagreement escalates and starts affecting team's morale, and that's something you will want to avoid. As the project manager, what should you do first? When you are reading the question to be mindful, what should you do first? For me, I sometimes think all the four are possible actions that you, the project manager, may take. But the question is, what should you do first out of the four options? The first option says, ask both team members to leave the meeting and resolve the issue completely. Resolve the issue later. B, escalate the issue to the functional manager immediately. C, facilitate a discussion to understand both perspectives and work toward a collaborative solution. D, avoid the issue for now and focus on completing the meeting agenda. Let's have your answers. Nelson, how am I doing on time?
We still have a lot of time. We still have about 41 minutes, so we should be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Seeing only C's in the chat.
Please, how many C's have you seen?
A lot. Majority.
So let me clap for them. Yeah. So you facilitate the discussion to understand both perspectives and work toward a collaborative solution. This is very important because the disagreement has escalated and it's affecting the team's morale, and very soon it will affect their productivity. You can't ask them to leave the meeting and resolve the issue later. You cannot also escalate the issue to the functional manager immediately. You don't even know what the problem is. You cannot also avoid the issue for now because, in fact, some people will pick this. If it happens in a meeting, the answer is D.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was actually thinking that because if it's during a meeting, then somebody would actually pick D. Yeah.
Yes. If it is during the meeting, during a project meeting, the answer is D. Avoid the issue doesn't mean you say, no, we are not going to resolve. You acknowledge what the person has said, because the issue is on argument over the approach to a technical solution. So it's not part of the agenda. So you need to complete the agenda. But you mind the issue, you note it, and you resolve it later. Does that make sense? Are they telling me it makes sense? I can see the charts.
Yeah. See thumbs up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Maybe there's someone who wants to lift their hands and provide.
Okay. All right.
Anyone?
Let's hear from you.
Okay. We have Lisa. Go ahead.
Okay. Lisa.
Hi, I don't think I got you. You said if it's during the project meet, if it's during the meeting, then the answer will be D. Is that what you said, please?
So you are in a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Before the meeting, you have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meeting, you now have two members arguing over the approach to a technical solution.
Okay.
So acknowledge acknowledge that there is issue, but you have to complete your agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a meeting that is time boxed 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
if you decide to start resolving this disagreement, you will not complete the meeting within that time, within the time boxed. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. So you complete the meeting, but you recognize that there is an issue to be resolved. These two team members that are arguing over the approach, let them have a conversation on their own first. Okay, so I recognize that Jumoke, you are saying this solution will not work, and
Okay.
Lisa, you are saying it will work. All right, you know what? Let's end with this meeting, and then the two of you should have conversation and agree. If you're unable to resolve it, I'm happy to step in.
Okay.
That is how it should be resolved. When you start facilitating, what are you facilitating? Because the two of them, it's like you only facilitate when the two of them are unable to resolve. But in the question, there is nothing that says they are unable to resolve it.
So then in this case, the answer is
D.
Is D. Okay. Because I
Yes,
got a
ma'am.
bit confused. Thank you so much.
Yes, I see Ivan's. Yes, please go on.
I see 3 hands. I'm not sure if there's anyone who wants to speak before we can proceed.
Okay.
I've allowed your mics.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Good evening. So I said I would want to know the actual issue that we are tackling in the question now. Are we tackling the fact that the team's morale is low, or during the meeting there was a disagreement because you said that when the issue happens during the meeting, we can avoid. And part of the question suggests that they were in a meeting. And
Okay.
yes,
Are you done?
yes, please, I'm done.
You see, not every information in PMI, PMP, not every information is relevant for.
Okay.
You understand? So we know that as a project manager, in your team charter, you would have meeting guidelines. And in the guidelines, best practice is that you should have a time-boxed meeting. You should have an agenda, and you must stick to the agenda. So this disagreement escalates and starts affecting the team's morale in a meeting is what's the word? To distract us from this during a meeting. Because the moment you leave the meeting and you start attempting to resolve this argument over the approach to a technical solution, you exceed your scheduled timeline for the project. Do you agree on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. But it's like you have a but.
Yes, the but is,
Go on.
at what point did the disagreement escalate? Was it during the meeting or after the meeting? Because if
Frankie, that information is not in this question. You see, one of the challenges we also have when we are reading questions is we start creating scenarios in our head.
Yes, that's true.
You start reading scenario, especially if you have had a similar occurrence. Hey, this thing happened. Read the questions. Let me tell you what I do. Each sentence I read, I'll be during the project meeting. That's how I read the question. Two team members begin arguing over the approach to a technical solution. So what is the relevance of this sentence to the question? The disagreement escalates and starts affecting the team's morale.
Okay.
As a project manager, what should you do first? What should I do first? Then I start reading each of the options and I'm going back to the question and I'm trying to understand, okay, you know that these questions, I generated them. I didn't look for answer. I'm also addressing the questions with you here. So it's not like questions that I have answers, that I'm looking at answers. So the first time I read the question, I made the same mistake most of the people who chose C made, because the focus was on the disagreement escalating and starting to affect the team's morale. And hey, we want to achieve results. Forgetting that as a project manager, you have meeting etiquettes. And your meeting etiquette, you must have agenda. And you must also have a timeline, because if you went through ATP training, there's a statement there that I always agree with. We don't have time, and everyone's time is important. So don't extend meetings unnecessarily. It is only two members that are arguing and it's affecting morale. And you have acknowledged that, okay, Jumoke and Lisa, sorry, you were the first person I spoke with on this. Jumoke and Lisa, you the project manager, I see what you are saying. Can we finish this meeting and address it later? Because you need to even understand the reason why Jumoke feels this way, why Lisa feels that way. You understand? So you cannot start once you start facilitating, you may end up resolving the problem, but you will not complete your meeting. But you can complete your meeting, and then the two of them would have some engagement. We believe that team members are reasonable people. They want the best for the project. So Forget about politics, situations that goes on politicking within the organization. I said earlier that PMI believes us. We are project managers. We are professionals. We are ethical. We are smart individuals. We approach things fairly and all that, and we are looking for win-win situations. You see what I mean? So the focus is that during a project meeting, this meeting, you must finish this meeting according to the agenda within the timeline. So this came up during the meeting. So you will acknowledge it. Avoiding it does not mean you are not. He said, avoid the issue for now and focus on completing the meeting agenda. So this is the answer. Let's go quickly to the second question. Question 2. A stakeholder and a team lead are in conflict about project priorities. The stakeholder insists on adding new features while the team lead is concerned about scope creep. The project manager understands both sides and wants to preserve the relationship while protecting the project scope. Which conflict resolution technique is most appropriate? A, forcing. B, compromising. C, avoiding. D, collaborating.
We have D, we have B. More D's are coming in. B, D again. Okay, so it's a split between B and D. It'd be good to, and I see why.
All right. The B's, can we have one of you volunteer to tell us why you think it's B?
Anyone who said B, just lift your hand and I'll unmute you. Either B or D, whoever is ready, just lift your hand. Okay, Evans.
Okay, I chose D because I believe at this point the project manager should be able to bring the two warring heads together and let them all collaborate and protect the project scope because they all work together, the project manager and the stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah, that was why I chose D.
Okay, I hear you. Then the B group.
Soliwe. Soliwe. We have Fad.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ferdinand, and I'm choosing A. Fourth is one of the directives.
We can't hear you unless it's just me.
I also can't hear you now.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
We can hear you now.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ferdinand, and I'm choosing B. B being the reason. A, when you force, it's a win-lose situation. When you compromise, each parties are giving off a part of their wants, right? Why coming to a resolution? If you are avoiding is not part of avoiding is okay. Avoiding it means you're not looking at you're yielding and you're yielding on the issue, and it's a lose-lose situation as well. Then collaborating is a problem-solving resolution. So I think I'll go with B.
So you are going with B.
Yes, I'm
Let's
going
read
with
it.
B.
All right, thank you very much. Let's look at the question again. A stakeholder and a team lead are in conflict. A stakeholder and a team lead whose idea should ordinarily receive premium.
The stakeholder.
Thank you. So in conflict about project priorities, the stakeholder insists on adding new features. And I said, when you are resolving when you are answering questions, you should be tilting towards value delivery to the stakeholder or the customer, because you want to deliver value, you want to make the customer happy. So while the team lead, it doesn't have problem so much with the new feature. It's just worried that accepting the new features may lead to scope creep. So the project manager understands both sides and wants to preserve the relationship while protecting the project scope. Which conflict resolution technique is most appropriate? You first need to understand why the stakeholder wants the new features. If it's valid, as I look at this project, I feel it's probably hybrid, or it could be adaptive. If it is adaptive and the stakeholder is the customer and the team lead is the scrum master, you will do what the stakeholder wants. You will just add it to the product backlog. And then once you finish the iteration, the product backlog will be reprioritized and then you work on it. So I'm always telling my students that as the scrum master, you don't have any say. If the customer through the product owner tells you that this is the prioritized product backlog, you can say, hey, this product backlog, this one that you have, item 1, it is going to cause this. It's going to, you don't have any problem with that. You are to do what the customer wants. You see what I mean? So you need to collaborate with the project manager. The project manager needs to interact with the team lead, because the team lead has not even done anything to affirm that there will be scope creep. It's just concern. It's just thinking this thing has not done any analysis. So the best option here is collaboration. To collaborate. It's not to avoid. It's not to compromise. How would you compromise? On what basis? How would you know what you are compromising on? Collaboration is problem solving. You would identify why this is so, and then you take decision. And I also said that the best option in resolving conflict is win-win situation, and the collaboration will give a win-win situation. So the answer is D. Respectfully, we are moving to, I think, the last part. Project support performance. So you remember that lesson 3 is plan projects. Of all your plans, you will come up with baselines. You have the school baseline, you have the budget baseline, you have the schedule baseline. And then you need to determine whether you are doing well. But most importantly, you are working as a team. And each person within the team must be given their optimal to ensure that the team deliver as they plan on delivering. So you need to support the team performance. You, as the project manager, your responsibility is to create an environment where your team members can perform at their best. So an enabling environment is your responsibility. If you are a scrum master and your team member says, my laptop is slow, you quickly maybe take it to HR or admin, maybe to refurbish or get a new laptop. It's difficult getting food. If it will have impact on the productivity of the team, okay, you work with management to see whether you can get a caterer to deliver food or a canteen to deliver food. The internet is slow. You, the project, the scrum master or the team lead, you go to management to see how the speed can increase. Those are some of the things you do to create a conducive environment for your team members to perform optimally, you know. And it involves setting clear expectations. Sometimes people are working, they don't even know what they're supposed to deliver. And the team charter will help you address this, because in the team charter, you have the roles and the responsibilities. And from the responsibilities, you can come up with the KPIs. So it makes it easier for you to measure performance. And then if you will measure people's performance, at the very least, they should know what you are assessing them on. Okay. And then you give them feedback periodically. You don't wait maybe when the project is over before you now say, you 6 months ago you did this, you 7 months ago you did this. So periodically, and then you encourage continuous growth. That's having a growth mindset, you know, where they can challenge each other. I tell my team members, you are your own competition, just as I am my own competition. So if you did something yesterday, you should be working towards improving on it. So you, the project manager, you need to be having this conversation with your team members. So we will look at these 4 topics briefly. Appraise team member performance against KPIs. Like what I said earlier, support and recognize team member growth and development. Determine appropriate feedback approach, you know, and verify performance improvements with your team. All these subtopics, they are in line with the ECU, right? So support team performance, by appraising team member performance against KPIs. Like I said, you need to have the baseline. When you use end value management and you calculate the cost variance, EV minus PV, what you are doing is you want to be able to compare how you are faring in terms of cost. So if you subtracted PV from CV and you got 1, it means you are doing more. Your earned value in terms of what you plan, you have done more than you planned. So you are doing well in terms of cost. If you did that of schedule variance, no, I've interchanged. The schedule variance is the EV minus PV. Hey, did anybody pick that? Anyway, schedule variance is EV minus PV, while CV cost variance is EV minus AC. So if you did EV minus PV and the SV equals 1 point something, it means the end value is more than what you plan. You are doing well. You would complete the project ahead of time. If you subtract it and it is 0 point something or negative, it means there's likely going to, if you continue like that, there's likely going to be time overrun. You will spend more time. Okay, if you subtract it and you got 0, 1 minus 1 equals 0, it means the time is as you plan. You are doing exactly what you plan. So what for you to be able to say what I plan, it means you had a baseline. And the baselines are what you are going to get from the respective planning that you will do, that we discussed briefly in lesson 3. So they will serve as your KPIs, and then you'll be measuring your performance against them, you know. So using the CV, CPI, cost variance, performance index. Cost performance index is EV divided by AC, actual cost. If you divided EV by actual cost and you got 1 point something, it means for every $1 that you spend on the project, or every 1 Kenyan shillings, or every 1 naira, or every 1 Ghana cedi, you are getting a value of 1 point. You are getting more than the value of the $1, 1 cedi, one, that you have spent, which means you are doing well. It means you will not exhaust the budget. You would have some money to give back to management. But if you divide it and it is exactly 1, it means you are going according to budget. If you divide it and it is 0 point something, it means you are not that efficient in terms of cost. It means for every $1, you are getting work worth of 80 cents or 80 pesos, as we say in Ghana, or 80 kobo, as we say in Nigeria. So it means you are not being efficient cost-wise. And you are able to say that because you have a baseline that you are comparing your performance with. Then iteration review, that is where you demonstrate using prototype to demonstrate the work that you have done, whether you have a good understanding of what the customer presented to the product owner. Definition of done is when the team says they've completed the work within an iteration. It has to be defined at the beginning of the iteration. So if you did the definition of done and the customer rejects it or has feedback that no, this is not what I asked you to do, it means you did not meet the definition of done, or you did not define the definition of done well. Okay. And of course, the retrospective is to help improve processes for future use. You also need to support and recognize team member growth and development. I said it earlier, you need to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of your team members. And then as a collective for the team, for you to be able to determine development opportunities, what kind of training would each team member require? And then you encourage participation in training. And it is always advisable that when someone goes for training and comes back, there should be knowledge transfer with the team members. Otherwise, when there is time to implement whatever he or she went to, then he will be alone. And that can be burdening, and then encourage mentoring to build capacity. Now, because of internet technology, you don't even need to be there in person with people for them to be your mentor, and recognize achievements. I'm looking at the time. Determine appropriate feedback approach. Use a constructive, timely, and respectful approach tailored to each team member. Don't use the same feedback, just like leadership style. Some people are very sensitive. You just have to find ways of communicating their feedback, especially if it's not positive, so that they receive it, and feedback should be balanced, highlighting both strengths. You did very well about this area. If you can improve on it, it would help. Verify performance improvements, through action plans and follow-up reviews or metrics to ensure desired changes are taking place. So let's answer these questions quickly before we run out of time. You notice that one of your team members is consistently missing deadlines. After reviewing the project KPIs, it's clear their performance is below expectations. What should you do first? A, escalate the issue to their functional manager. B, publicly address the issue in the next team meeting. C, schedule a private conversation to provide constructive feedback and understand the cause. D, replace the team member to avoid further delays. Let's have your answers. Nelson, please, can you check the
exclusively C's. There's no other. I haven't seen any other. Yeah, only C's here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the answer is C. I don't even know where I put all the answers at C. Schedule a private conversation so that you can understand whatever is making the team member to be performing below expectations, and then you can offer solutions. So C is the correct answer. And the second question is, a team member has shown significant improvement after receiving coaching and mentoring. As a project manager, what is the best way to reinforce this positive performance? A, assign more complex tasks without providing additional support. B, increase their workload to test their capabilities. C, recognize their improvement publicly and discuss future development opportunities. D, delay recognition until the next formal performance review so that their head will not swell. Yeah, what's your answer, please?
Okay. C, getting C's.
All right. Do we have anyone choosing a different option?
No, only C's here.
All right. Thank you. I also tell my student that sometimes Evans, Nelson, Evans' hand is up. Is it a new hand or?
Okay. Evans, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to type D, but my keyboard was not working. That was why I raised my hand.
Okay, your option is D.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you choose D, please?
Okay, I chose D because looking at the four options, I think we can eliminate A and B. And between the C and the D, I think giving a public recognition in the middle of the work wouldn't be wouldn't go in line with the PMI thing. But when we delay, yes,
Before
that's
you
why.
before you quote PMI, are you sure? Okay, continue. But when we delay,
But yes, and we assess the the team member formally through performance appraisal, then we can review and know that yes, indeed, this teammate deserves the recognition.
you know what? Can you read the question again? Read the question out loud to us.
A team member has shown significant improvement after receiving coaching and mentoring.
Full stop. Now tell us the understanding of what you just read.
Okay. The teammate went through training.
Okay.
He went through training.
And has shown significant improvement.
Improvement, yes.
Okay. But you still want to assess the improvement the team member has shown?
Maybe through a formal performance appraisal or.
See that you are okay. Because of time, what if the project manager has seen that the team member, yes, said, are you able to unmute your mic? Said, I can see your hand. Said Mohammed.
You can unmute now. Say
it. Over.
Please go on. Okay. Said, can you hear us? All right. Said, when you unmute your mic, you can talk, but let me continue with the question. A team member has shown significant improvement after receiving Esther. Okay. A team member has shown significant improvement
Hello.
after receiving. Yes, go on.
Thank you. Greetings from Kenya. When I look at that question, first, my name is Esther. I just did my PMP the other day. And when I look at that question, for me, I have two possible answers. First, I'll go with the choice B, because this is after coaching and mentoring, and now I've seen an improvement with this particular team member. So I'll want to test his capability by assigning him or her more duties. And then I'll also go with the choice C, where I will recognize the improvement in public and also discuss with him or her on the future opportunities. This is because, when you recognize someone, you motivate. And this is a team member among many others. For example, if there are 10 of them, the rest will also be motivated, and therefore the performance, if you are managing a project, the performance will now cut across to the rest of the team. But since we need to choose one choice or one answer in terms of now which one comes first, I'll go with C. But I feel even B can also apply. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Esther. You see, when I said that, see yourself as a project manager, PMI, that's how PMI sees you. You're a professional, you are ethical, you have experience, and you are fair. And I also said that in giving feedback, don't delay feedback, give it periodically. And if a question says a team member has shown significant improvement, this is from the project manager's perspective. After receiving coaching and mentoring, if somebody is picked for coaching and mentoring, it means there were some deficiencies identified. And that is why they have assigned coach and mentor to this person. And so if they have given feedback and the team member has also shown significant improvement, why don't you want the team member to receive his or her accolades or his or her flowers? Publicly doesn't mean you go to market. It will be within the team members. And discuss future development opportunities. You cannot just say, okay, now you have improved. This is where I want you to go. The receiver of whatever the development opportunity is must contribute to it. That's why you need to have that conversation with the person. Because maybe I have improved, but I don't want to grow from where I am. You cannot impose it on me. And in leading people, you need to have conversation for a buy-in so that you don't hear, this is what they say we should do. So the person can own it, the ownership. That is why out of these 4 options, C is the most fitting option. Why would you want to delay the recognition until the next formal performance review? You have already seen, it said that shown significant improvement. So because of time, this is how I look at least a year ago. And I've been a member of PMI since 2010, a member of PMI Ghana 2011. I was one of the founding members of PMI, and I've been volunteering. My first meeting, I started volunteering. Till date, I volunteered because I was looking for PDUs towards my PMP. But as I volunteered, I realized that it's an avenue to develop and groom myself, an opportunity that I probably may not have gotten outside PMI. And I became a trainer in 2012 until dates. And these are some of my certifications, and I'm the immediate past president of PMI Ghana. I included this in the slide because I want to encourage you, one, to become member of your respective chapters and contribute to the growth of project management in our community. And then also to encourage you that if I wrote the PMP first time and I failed, and now I train and my students pass at first sitting. And I've also earned other certifications and currently preparing for another certification now. It means you can do it, you can achieve it. It's a lot of information, and rightly so. It's a good standard certification that is leading in project management globally. So it requires you to put in some effort, and don't do it like, oh, I just remember, like on and off. Be committed. I really appreciate the PMI Africa for this opportunity. Attend the sessions and it will be worthwhile and be added to the number of people that will become PMP certified in Africa. If you want to chat with me, you can scan this for WhatsApp chat. Then I'm done. Thank you. And this is time for questions and answer. You can ask me your questions. Oh, we have run out of time.
Right on
Nelson,
time.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much, Jumoke. You're actually right on time. There was one question that was asked before when you were when you're looking at the conflicts, and it was asking that which are some of the examples of severe conflicts that need escalation, or maybe generally, do conflicts need any escalation? Or maybe if you can address that.
Yes, based on the threshold of conflict that you can resolve, especially conflict that would affect scope, schedule, cost, quality. These are the main project objectives. If it is above your threshold, then you have to escalate it.
Okay. Great. We'll take one more question and then we can close. Fed? You can unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Jumoke, for your time and the nice teaching. My question is, how would you resolve personal conflicts? Would you escalate it, or would the team members come together and resolve it themselves? I'm talking about heated personal conflict that might even affect not just the team but individuals.
Usually we want to avoid personal conflict, but if we cannot avoid it, then we still use the PMI's way of conflict resolution. The two would have to first talk about it. If they're unable to resolve it, then they are immediate. Let's say you are working in a team and you have a supervisor. The supervisor should now take over. If the supervisor is unable to resolve it, then it will be escalated maybe to the project manager. Yeah. But every conflict would have to first be resolved between the two affected parties. And then when it comes to the project manager and it is above the project manager's threshold, then you can escalate it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Jumoke. You have really gone through the content very well and even explained every concept really well. I know it's not the full in-depth details as what you would do when you are in class for the PMP training, but this was high level enough for the candidates, and I hope that it was very helpful to all the candidates. Thank you for sharing all the questions as well, and just explaining the answers carefully as well. So thank you for that. And just your time, it's 2 hours out of your schedule, and it's fully volunteering. So thank you so much. To all the candidates, thank you for showing up. Should you need to reach out to Jumoke directly for one-on-one sessions, or if you want to engage her and maybe just pick her brain on anything, feel free to reach out directly. And Jumoke, if you can post your details, or maybe you can just put them, leave the slide on so that the candidates can take your details. Yeah, that would be great. But I want to just thank everyone for showing up. I want to encourage you to book the exams, book the date. When you work with a specific date, it helps. It does help. You have a schedule that you're working with. For those that are looking for simulators to take the exam, we have the PMI study hall. We'll be sharing. I've shared a link in the group, in the WhatsApp group. You can use that. Personally, I used the study hall when I was doing my PMP exam. It is super helpful, and this is why I encourage you to use it. There's other simulators out there that you can also subscribe to. Feel free to interact in the WhatsApp group. Share contacts, share questions that you have. If you're having a challenge with any question, post it in the chat. And then most of the candidates will give you answers, and then you will be able to get an explanation as well. So once again, thank you. We are going to close the meeting, the webinar today, and then we will meet again on Thursday for another session like this on a different topic. The recording and the slides for this session will be shared towards the end of this week together with the Thursday one. So looking forward to see you again and interacting with you on WhatsApp. Thank you so much.